I'm always trying to find new ways to be more efficient, more effective, and I believe that asynchronous communication is the future. I know, Agile principle number 6 states that the most efficient and effective method of conveying information to and within a development team is face-to-face conversation. Face-to-face, but that was written 21 years ago. 21 years, the world has changed. Corporate life has changed. Something happened 2 years ago that forced us to disobey this principle and work from home. And the result, most people don't want to go back to the office. So, in some way, it works. Non-face-to-face conversation. By the end of this video, you will know how to run all the Scrum events. Scrum itself, the sprints, everything Scrum related asynchronously, and I'll also give you some tips and tricks to improve your asynchronous communications in your day-to-day life. First off, what is asynchronous communication? Well, most of the time in the typical office space, people engage in synchronous communication. They tell something to someone, they write something to someone, and they expect an immediate response. That's synchronous communication. But for the past 2 years, most of your communication might have been asynchronous, which simply means that you're sending an audio message, a video message, a written message to someone without expecting an immediate response. Think about emails or chats. That's asynchronous communication. And synchronous communication is simply coming to a place of someone and speaking to them, speaking on the phone. Immediate response. See the difference? Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that face-to-face conversations are bad. No, there's nothing that can build connections, human connections, like face-to-face interactions. Nothing like that. But still, asynchronous communication. Quite a lot of benefits. Number one, you can reply whenever you feel like replying. The reply doesn't need to be immediate. You can reply to the email whenever you feel like it. Number two, everything is documented. If I come to your desk and speak to you, immediate response, nothing is documented. But if I send you an email, a chat, everything is documented. The audio message, the video message, documented. And number three, what I believe is the most powerful benefit, it improves productivity. Coming to the office is good. Talking to your colleagues, that's good. There's nothing like that to build human connection. It helps team bond. But are people actually working? There's a lot of research that has been done on this topic. People don't work at work. They like talking to each other. They go to meetings. They don't actually work. Most of the time is spent in meetings or talking to your colleagues. And there's nothing wrong with that if you want to build this human connection. But to actually be productive, be efficient, be effective, that's something else. Now, if you didn't have to reply straight away with asynchronous communication, you reply on your schedule. You could book 1 hour, 2 hours to work. No distractions, uninterrupted work to code something. There's nothing like that to improve productivity. Before talking about the Scrum events, let's talk about the change in communication. You see, asynchronous communication is less personal. Yeah, it's less personal. It's harder to communicate your emotions. And the other person might not really understand your full message. And because of this, you need to be more intentional when writing the message. Ask yourself a few questions before clicking on send. Is the format okay? Is the audio format that I've picked or the video format that I've picked the best choice? Does the person have the full context? Really understand the full context? Am I communicating the message clearly? Am I leaving all the confusion out of the message? Put yourself in the shoes of a person receiving the message. Will I really understand what I was trying to communicate? I'm not getting the body language or the emotion of a person. Will I really understand the message and not be offended by the message? Now, if your Scrum team wants to experiment with this new way of communicating asynchronously, the first thing you need to do is update the working agreement. Ensure that the new working agreement is built on this new type of communication. Set a date for the experiment, a start date, end date, and the expected result of the experiment. The first event that we need to talk about, not really an event, but we need to talk about that, the backlog refinement. The goal of a backlog grooming is to ensure that the user stories that might be picked up in the upcoming sprint are well written, well understood by the developers, estimated, prioritized, basically meet the definition of ready. Now, most backlog refinements are done synchronously. Just put everyone in a meeting room and do the backlog backlog refinement, but sometimes people need to check with other people. I need to check something with someone else in order to reply. I need to check your code in order to reply. I have issues when doing it synchronously. When doing it asynchronously, it fixes both of these issues because you reply, you do the work on your schedule, on your time, and it's not in a single meeting. It spans for a complete sprint. You can do the backlog refinement for a complete sprint. And it's very simple. I'm sure that you're already writing your user stories somewhere, right? Most people, most companies use Jira for that. And in Jira, there's a comment section that you can use to comment on the user story, ask questions, answer questions, tag other people. So basically, all the developers will open the user story and read the user story by themselves and ask questions if they have questions. If they want to communicate with someone else, send the other person a message. You can use even the Jira comment section to do all this so that everything is logged, everything is tracked. You can tag people, you can check the code, come back, answer to a question. So many options here. If you don't want to use Jira, use your messaging app like Slack. Create a channel, create some multiple threads for each user story, and do the same thing. Everything related to backlog grooming can be done asynchronously using these tools. And you start doing the backlog refinement activities at the start of a sprint. You start preparing the next sprint at the start of a sprint. No meetings, no time wasting. The next sprint event is the sprint planning. You're already doing the backlog refinement. You're already ensuring that the definition of ready is being met for each one of these user stories. The priority is in check. All these things are done at the start of a sprint asynchronously using Jira or your messaging app. Why do we need to do a sprint planning session? Use the same strategy. Create a channel for the sprint to do the sprint planning. And the only thing that we need to talk about that is to agree on what will be picked in the next sprint in terms of user stories. We are already refining the stories in the other channels. We also need to agree on a sprint goal. All these things can be agreed on during the sprint asynchronously. Maybe finalize on the last day asynchronously, but all these things you can start agreeing on all these things from day one of the sprint. We have now started the sprint. Congratulations. The next big event is the daily scrum. You can use a tool like geekbot.com. Every morning, every single day, a bot will message you with 4 questions. How do you feel? What did you do yesterday? What will you do today? Anything blocking you from doing what you're planning to do today? The basic classic 3 questions that can be edited, obviously. And everyone in the team replies to these questions. First thing in the morning when you open the app, you reply to these questions and you can check the replies of other people. You can comment on replies of other people. You can tag other people from other teams, escalate issues, raise impediments, solve impediments. Everything is done in the comment section. Everything is done asynchronously, and everything, big advantage, is stored, documented. Nothing is documented when doing synchronous daily scrums, but when using an application, everything is stored, which is pretty nice. The next Scrum event we need to talk about is the sprint retrospective. You do the sprint retrospective like any sprint retrospectives that you would be doing online. Use an application, an online application. There's so many to store all the cause. What needs to be improved? What went well? What do we need to start doing? What do we need to stop doing? Basically, do the sprint retrospective like any sprint retrospective that you would be doing. The key difference is that you start doing it on day one. Share the board so that people can start adding their improvement items on day one. And people will add items, comment on each other's items, ask questions, reply, tag people. You can even create a Slack channel, multiple threads for each one of these improvement items. Let people talk about. And remember the goal. The goal is to get an action item. So always, as a facilitator, ensure that to prompt people what actions need to be done. You do that asynchronously. You tag people, and at the end of a sprint, you can collect all the data and start assigning these action items to the people that wanted to work on these action items, and decide if you want to take these action items in the next sprint, as you would for any retros. But everything is done asynchronously throughout the whole sprint. And that's it. This is how to do all the Scrum events asynchronously, except for the sprint review, which doesn't make any sense to do it asynchronously. There's so many stakeholders involved. But if you have a way to do it asynchronously, please let me know in the comment section, which brings me to my next point. If you want more tips, insights on Agile, Scrum, personal growth, click on the video that stands out the most on the screen right now, and I'll see you in a few seconds.